Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time here, hey, check out the show. Maybe you want to become a whiskey friend long term. But today's pour and today's review, I am quite excited to have the chance to sip on this again. Now, this is a label that you probably never seen before. You may never heard of it. You probably need to get to know it, but it is the Magi Blended Rye Whiskey. This is coming from Cat's Eye, who you may be familiar with because of Obtainium. And it is a blended rye from MGP in Canada. We'll get into the ages and the stats in a moment, but it's also finished in port and sherry. And yeah, we're going to have fun breaking this one down. Let's kick off the show and not make me wait any longer. Thanks for joining, everybody. All right. So as I was saying there, we are talking about the Magi Blended Rye. It is a blend of 6-year Indiana MGP rye and then 21-year Canadian rye. And then on top of that, finished in port and sherry casks. This is 107 proof and it was $113. And the weird thing about this, I got no association with this whatsoever, but I am going to put a link in the description. Whiskeychannel.com and the Bourbon Wrench have been pushing this thing initially through their Patreon, but I think it's through everyone now. I think you just go on there and buy it. I'll put the link though in the description if you are interested. I will admit up front, I am strategically releasing this video till after I ordered a backup. So forgive me on that one, but I'm going to have good news by the end of this that I like to share with everybody. And I want to sip this thing again. So I have been through it quite a bit. I've only had this thing for about a week. It is pretty rare for me to explore something this much in a week, but I really wanted to get my thoughts down on this particular rye whiskey because continually impressed with it. And by the end of this, you'll see why I'm impressed with it and where I'm impressed with it. But before we get to the review and the score, we are going to go through the tasting notes. We're going to go through the nose, then the palate, front of the palate, mid palate, and the finish. We'll break all those down. If you do get a chance to get this, go through this experience with me. Come back to this video. I always like going with the tasting notes here. If I'm getting the same things you're getting, if you're getting different things, I want to hear about it too. But let's go into the nose. Cheers to local whiskey friends on today's Glen. Let's kick it off. Man, I really like this nose. The rye part of it does shine through on the nose. It comes through a bit of eucalyptus, hint of dill. It's probably coming from that MGP, I bet. And then a little bit of a floral note when it comes to the rye profile. From there, yeah, I'm mostly going to lean on cinnamon and then raspberry preserves. So the fruits really start shining through on the nose as this opens up, and that is going to be a common theme, I think, throughout this review. The only other thing that I pick up on, it's a combination of either a flan, a custard, or just a white cream filling of some sort. Bit of pepper there too. I think that's about it on the nose, though. I'm not getting anything else. Man, maybe some citrus notes are coming through. So some lemon, maybe even orange. I'd even describe them as the peel, the lemon peel and the orange peel, as if you zested them, more so than the juices in the middle. But as you can see here, man, we got some dynamic things going on. Oh man, I think I could actually pick this apart over and over again. I just went into that one and got a few more notes, but let's not overdo this. All right, let's go into the taste. Oh man, it's, it's really good. The flavors really escalate at mid palate, and the finish just hangs on for quite a bit. I think what I really like about it is on the front of the palate, it turns into a fruit bomb right away. So the port and the sherry finish are going to be lending a whole lot of flavor to this thing on top of the rye itself. It's very reminiscent to me of a fruit tart. So breaking down even that pastry shell, the custard or the cream in the middle, then you have the fruit that's on top of that, usually like a blackberry, a blueberry, a strawberry, a raspberry. It kind of has that glaze on top and then sometimes some powdered sugar on top of that. I get all of those notes, even right away up front. Mm. Mid palate, the rye does take hold. So notice there was no mention of anything typical with the rye in that front, but the rye spice does hit mid palate, and you get a little bit of a pepper spice there too. Oh man, mid palate. I'm going to continue that whole fruit tart idea. Oh, cinnamon's now getting there. Nutmeg. You're getting into kind of even a allspice kind of territory. Baking spices across the board. If you just want to be more generic with it, but man, it is there. And then as it gets into the finish, the rye does pick up again. The oak picks up as well. So it almost translates into an old antique wood shop kind of a taste, but then it even transitions a little bit to a chocolate, more of a baker's chocolate. Oh man, and then the citrus notes really make a comeback on the finish. The lemon and the orange zest come through again. So just on top of that tart, just get a zester and do the lemon and do the orange on top of that. So you got a pretty decadent dessert here. And the finish. So I'm just going to keep tasting the finish and I will let you know when it stops. Still going, still some pepper, baker's chocolate still there, still going, still going. Now I'm getting kind of a fried dough note, a little bit of that powdered sugar. I mean, that's the part that really impresses me, especially for a blended rye like this. Sometimes ryes can fall off a cliff for me, but this one likes to hang on. And the proof is only 107. It is rich and oily. Um, I think it's at the perfect proof point for this. I don't want it to give me any more than what it's giving me. It doesn't need to give me any more punch. I'm going to go in for one more sip and then we'll break down the scores. Hmm, man, just gives me everything I want out of a special rye. So I think that's what's really impressing me the most on this one. And as I said at the top, it's $113. This will come into play in the review, but $113 for an experience like this. I need a backup of it because I can see it projecting into future lists. So that's the problem that I have, especially considering I've already drank like a fifth of it. So let's pull up the scores here, get the final thoughts. So here's the scoring system that we're reviewing on the channel. It's going to be a 0 to 100 scale, and it has three components: the flavor, the experience, and the value. Behind this, there's even more metrics. I just summarize it this way to make it more simplistic. But essentially, flavor represents 40% of the score. That's the notes that we're getting and how enjoyable those notes are. The experience, that's going to be more about the mouthfeel, the balance, the complexity, the length of the finish. And then value, I think it's important for value to come into play on the scores. It can move the needle just a little bit, being 10% of the score. But ultimately, we're looking at an 85 out of 100, which is very good. Anything between 80 to 89, I'm calling a very good pour. 90, I mean, that's going to be hard to obtain, and that's going to be amazing pour. So it is right on the cusp there. And I'll be honest, I debated if I'm being harsh on the experience or not. That's actually why I went through so much of this even before going into this video in the days leading up to this, because I wanted to be sure. But ultimately, where I docked it a little bit was I do wonder a little bit if it's overfinished or not, or if some people might think it's overfinished because so much of the fruit and so much of that port and sherry finish come through that I ended up bringing down the complexity a little bit. But that's ultimately where it lost some of its points, was me fearing that it was over finished or over exaggerated because of the finishing and just the absolute fruit bomb that it is. But every step of the way, I enjoyed that fruit bomb. So if it wasn't for that, we're looking at something right on the cusp of a 90. Thus, when we get into would I recommend this or not, it's an emphatic yes. I gave it a 9 out of 10. The only thing that keeps it out of being a 10 is the fact that it is a bottle that's over $100. And that's just not something everyone is going to want to dip into. So kind of keeping that price in mind in that recommend, but still a strong recommend. This is a special pour. This is a special occasion pour. Even this is something that you're going to enjoy in 2023. Thus, do I plan to buy another? Well, technically, I don't plan to buy another, but I did buy another. So the answer was yes. So yeah, that breaks it down here. So you can see that I'm pretty impressed with this. I think Fred Minnick even had it real high on a list, is what David said too. Uh, I don't know where he had it, but I think he was high on it as well. So I'm not too surprised now after tasting it myself. The thing that I would compare this to, if I had a comparison, actually goes the other direction that I want it to go in, and that would be Four Gates. Four Gates can sometimes dip into the same realm when we're talking about the Port Perry Perry or the Andalusia Key Rye. You know, it almost taps into those type of waters, and those bottles are 200. So that's not a good alternative. This is the cheaper alternative. And that's just kind of what Cat's Eye does anyway. With Obtainium, he's always trying to make that affordable, and he kind of did the same thing here. So I don't think I need to say anything else on that. You can tell I'm pretty excited about it. I was excited to drink it again here. I've got one little sip left. I am going to enjoy it as we sign off. Hmm, man, I might have been harsh on that score. So keep that in mind when you go into this. So take a look at the link. If it is accessible, I'll put it in the link in the description. Hey, go buy it. I'm sure they'll be happy about that. Well, thank you for joining, everybody. Thank you for joining me for today's review. Let me know what you think in the comments if you have had this before. And otherwise, hey, have a great day. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye, whiskey friends.